Hello and welcome to this webinar. This is part of our Digital Building Week series of online events. I'm Chloe McCulloch, Editorial Director at Assemble Media Group, and this webinar is titled, How Can Innovations and Processes Boost Employee Productivity? I'm joined by a brilliant panel who you can see on your screens now. We've got Katie Dowding, Executive Vice President at Skanska, who is also on the Construction Productivity Task Force. So she might be talking with that hat on as well as the Skanska hat. We've got Elena Vrabi, Senior Technical Director for Highways at Arcadis, and Fabio Roberti, Regional Practice Technology Leader at HKS Architects. So thank you all for joining us, a brilliant panel with us today. Very briefly, before the panelists get onto the topic, I'm just going to briefly outline what I think we're going to be talking about today. So we know that productivity is a huge issue for the whole UK economy. It's a central part of the new government's economic growth plan, and successive governments have tried to tackle the productivity problem. But construction is absolutely central to the country's economic success, and it has its very own challenges around improving productivity, which has seen very little improvement over decades. So we know there's a skills crisis. We know that large parts of the sector have been slow to modernise and adopt digital technology. So there are a lot of problems. What can we do about it? And that's what our speakers today are going to be unpacking. And we'll hear from them on a sort of micro level across the industry, but also we'll drill down to what individual companies are doing, what they've adopted, and what we can learn from each other. So before I hand over, I've just got a couple of little reminders, just some housekeeping. You can post questions throughout this webinar, and those will pop up on a list, and we will save them for the Q&A section at the end. So please do, as thoughts occur, jot them down and we will pick them up at the end. And we also have, a lot of people attending. I might not get through them all, but I will do my best. Also, if you would like to participate with social media, we have a hashtag which is DBW2022. And finally, we have a feedback survey at the very end of this session, which will just pop up. It takes 60 seconds to complete, and it's really useful to find out what you got out of today, what we could maybe improve in the future sessions. So please do fill that in if you have time. Finally, this webinar is being recorded. So if you miss a bit or you want to share it with a colleague, you can do, just come back to our website, register for the webinar, and it will be available. I think after an hour after we finish, it just takes an hour to process and then it will be there. So that's quite enough from me. We are going to hand over to Katie now, and the rest of us are going to turn off our webcams and mics so that you can focus on her presentation. I will just let Katie know if her presentation is showing.
Fantastic. So hopefully somebody's going to give me control. There we go. Show my screen. I think after a couple of years of this, we're all used to going through. Has it come up now?
It did come up and then it went away again. So.
Let's try again. This one, you can see your screen. Oh, there you go, show my screen. It's 2 years, and this is another app for sharing presentation. So, yeah, no, I got.
If you have two screens, perhaps it's showing your other screen.
No, I've only got one screen. I got an invite to share my screen. When I clicked yes, it just disappeared. So let me.
We'll try one more time, and if not, we can do it another way.
For me, yeah. And failing that, I can talk our way through it, even if the slides don't appear. So, one more time. Show my screen. Right, are we there?
That's it. Perfect. You might want to put it in presentation mode, and there you go. Right.
Bingo. So it's a fantastic start when we talk about digital productivity. I think if I'd have mastered all the apps, then maybe my digital productivity might have been slightly better. So apologies to everyone attending for that. So yes, as per the introduction, I'm Katie Dowding. I'm Executive Vice President responsible for operations at Skanska in the UK. But actually why I'm here today is talking to you about my role in the Construction Productivity Task Force. Some of you may have heard about this, some of you may not. So I'm going to talk us through who we are and what the activities are that we've completed to date. We have a problem with productivity in the construction industry. And in actual fact, in spite of all of the innovations, it's improved very little in the last 50 years. And in fact, our level of productivity has fallen behind productivity improvements in the UK. So this was the conundrum that we were presented with. And as a task force, we were brought together to look at try and understand the problem. Why is that happening? And actually, what can we do to kickstart things to improve productivity in the UK construction industry? So we were formed back in February 2020, and we were brought together through an organisation called Be the Business, who are a not-for-profit organisation which straddles between government and private industry to create innovation, interventions and improvements. And the real focus for us was about productivity in the private sector of the UK construction industry. So here are some of the members of the Construction Productivity Task Force. And what's really important about this is actually the span across the whole supply chain. So as you can see here, we have representatives from client groups, representatives from contractors, supply chain, and consultants. Because actually the productivity challenge is not down to one part of the industry alone. Actually, there's challenges in how clients set up contracts in the first place. There's productivity challenges around how projects are designed, how they're delivered on site, and actually how we get innovations from the supply chain into industry. How we set ourselves up organisationally to embrace improvements and initiatives for driving productivity. So, what have we done to date? Well, in 2020, we spent our first period actually trying to understand the problem. What are causing the challenges to productivity in the UK construction industry? And once we understand those, which are the ones that we can best address? The first thing we soon realised is actually this is multifaceted. We came up with actually nearly 80 areas we could look at to drive productivity in the UK construction industry. We can't tackle the whole problem. So we looked at what are the best, what are the ones where we get the best results, soonest get the best results for our effort. And the three that we came up with were collaborative contracting. So if we improve the way we contract in a more collaborative way, this would be one of the biggest drivers for productivity. The second area was, actually, we don't really know how we're measuring productivity. We don't know how one project is more productive than the other. There's no consistent form of data and metrics, and we don't share data and metrics across the industry. This was the second work stream. And the third work stream that was really important was actually what's happening at a site level and how could we test some of our theories. So the third work stream was about the pilot sites that we put in place. Where we are now in 2022, we're just finishing completing some of the assets from our initial work. What we're really looking to do now is to share these with industry and hopefully embed and continue to improve them to drive productivity in the UK construction industry. So what are the key outputs that we've achieved to date? So in terms of data and metrics, we've established what the key measures are at an industry level that we need to be looking at. And we've helped to launch the Construction Data Trust. Construction Data Trust is a not-for-profit charity which will collect data from across the industry to allow comparison and sharing of information. It makes sure that we're not doing this in an anti-competitive way, that the information is cyber secure and anonymised. The second work stream from the pilot sites, sorry, the next work stream comes from collaborative contracting. And across the course of the year, we've been developing what's going to be launched in November as the private sector playbook. Shares a lot of principles with the public sector playbook, which I'm sure many of you are aware of. But this really focuses on how can we set ourselves up for success when it comes to collaboration and when it comes to productivity. And the third work stream was spun out of the pilot sites. So we looked at starting to measure productivity on 2 pilot sites that we had. What were the challenges we faced, what worked well, what didn't work well. And out of that, we produced a document called Measuring Construction Productivity, a 7-step framework for success, which sets out some guidelines and principles about how you can measure productivity on site and how you can look to drive improvements in productivity on site. So a little bit about the 2 projects that we chose to run for the pilot sites. The first one's called The Forge. This is a collaboration between Landsec, Mace, Sir Robert McAlpine and Bryden Wood. This is a very modular solution, DFMA. The second project is Norton Folgate, and this is a collaboration with British Land as a client and Skanska as the main contractor. Also with Morris Rowe in the supply chain worked on this with us. This is a partial refurb and renovation with some new build, made up of multiple buildings, multiple different finishes, a lot of retained items as well. So quite a different project to the Forge. I think the thing that soon became very apparent, one of our first learnings, is we actually had to differentiate between the industry macro level measurements and actually what you want to measure on site. So let me explain a little bit more about that. At an industry level, you might measure gross value add, pounds per worker hour. At an industry level, that allows comparison between projects. It allows comparison between forms of contracting. But actually, at a site level, on a monthly basis, that doesn't really have much meaning. You might have 2 transformers and 3 generators delivered on site in 1 month and none the next month. That would give you a higher GVA in the first month than the second. Does that mean you are more productive? Not necessarily so. Actually, what we found, we had to get really down to grassroots level when we were measuring productivity at site level. Actually, what we were interested in is how many cubes of concrete are being laid by a gang. How often is the tower crane working? So our first learning was that real need to differentiate between industry measures and site levels. And actually, when it came to looking at productivity, as much as anything, it's not about people working harder, driving greater levels of production. Actually, a lot of it's about removing obstacles to production and actually increasing the enablers to production as well. So I'll just very briefly take us through the 7-step framework for success that we put in place. I'll give you a link at the end of the presentation where you can download the framework for your use as well. But this is about how we set ourselves up for success and productivity, starting with productivity in mind on our projects. So the first step of this is around engagement, and you do need engagement from all parties. That includes the client, the contractor, and the subcontractor as well, the materials supply chain as well. And then what we do on the project is actually defining what we're going to measure on the project. And that's going to vary from job to job. It's incredibly difficult to measure every component of productivity on a project. So actually, you're probably going to want to focus on the key areas. So for example, if you've got a concrete frame building, you might be looking at the rate at which concrete is laid. If you've got a steel frame building, you might be looking at the level of steel erection. You might be looking at the rate of cladding installation and what's driving productivity there. Once you've established the key areas that you want to look at on your project, then you need to work out what data do you want to gather to inform you about productivity. And then the really exciting bit for digital is about identifying the technology that's going to help you to collect that data. Now, there's lots of technology out there, as I'm sure you're aware, and a lot of it's really interesting and quite fun to use. but actually you've got to think about what's your best investment, what's going to give you the information you need at the frequency you need. Agree on that as a team, and it's then you can start to collect the data. And this is the really powerful piece. There's nothing better than actually collecting the data and just putting it in the hands of the project management and site teams. They start analysing, they start picking the pieces, and then that's where they start to identify where they can make interventions, remove obstructions to productivity, and accelerate enablers. And as that goes on, we look to improve productivity, we feed that back into the teams, and we feed that back into our other projects, which enables us to start the cycle again. So I just counted through these. So the 2 case studies, you can read a lot more about these in the framework guide if you have a look at them later. One was around the reinforced concrete frame that we had at Norton Foregate. So really looked at analysing why some areas of laying concrete were better and faster, had better levels of productivity than others, and it's got some really good learnings for that we were able to apply as we went through the floors up through the building. So as a task force, what are our next steps? So the Construction Data Trust is starting to build momentum. It's collecting more data. We're getting more members joining the Data Trust. The more members that join the trust, the more data we have, which is going to enable us to start analysing that data and drawing some analytics and conclusions for that, so we can look at industry level improvements. The playbook will be being launched on the 10th of November. So we're really excited about that and hoping for some good engagement from industry in embedding it. The framework guide is already out there. So we're really going out, talking about the framework guide, looking for people to use it and get feedback about good case studies of where it's been successful. And we have 2 new work streams going forward. One which is about designing for productivity, and the other one's about training for productivity. And we've started piloting that now, all of which you can find out more about on the link I'll show you at the end of this. So what have been the key takeaways for us as a task force? You have to take your principles back to basics when you're looking at productivity. You definitely need to be able to measure productivity to be able to improve it. Really important point here is about not confusing production and productivity. This isn't about sweating assets, making people work harder. You know, that's actually a recipe for disaster in terms of when it comes to safety. Productivity should be driving safer, high quality production. As I mentioned earlier, it's really important to separate out industry level measures and site level operational measures. DFMA can really help, or design for manufacturing assembly, can really help improve productivity, but make sure you're measuring apples with apples. You know, you're not just taking the labour from site and using the same amount of labour that you are in a factory. Consider the best return from digital interventions. There's lots you can do, there's lots of money you can spend, but you want to make sure that you're getting the right return for it. And I think the final most important point, if we get this right and improve productivity, we will have safer and higher quality sites in the products that we deliver. So I'm sure the slides will be available afterwards, and that provides the link to the work of the Construction Productivity Task Force. Back to you, Chloe.
Thank you so much, Katie. There's a lot there, I think, for people to get stuck into, and thank you for the links. And maybe when we come back for the Q&A, we could put that last screen up so people have got it again. There's so much to unpack there, but I think what I'll do for now is move on to the next speaker, and then we'll bring in questions around the task force back at the end. But thank you so much, Katie. We're now going to go to Elena, and over to you. Your screen is showing, Elena, and if you want to just put it in presentation mode.
Excellent, I'll do that. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon if we have attendees from outside the UK. It's a pleasure to be here. So a little bit about myself. I'm Elena Braby. I'm a Senior Technical Director within Arcadis. and I have about 29 years experience within the construction industry, and for the past 4 or 5 years I've been very passionate about digital and innovation, digital transformation, and I've been leading the UK mobility digital initiatives across rail, highways and aviation. So today I'm going to give you a bit of a journey through Arcadis' journey towards improving productivity, and there is a slightly different continuation from what Katie presented, and that framework is absolutely fantastic in terms of setting the industry with the right pointers and to look at the productivity in the right way. But we want to present our way of looking, because we looked into productivity and we found other elements that contribute to that. Let me see a little bit about Arcadis. This is the vision that our CEO Peter Osterweir created for the company, and it was that Arcadis exists to find solutions to pressing challenges, improving quality of life for people around the world. You can see how the work we do with our clients, and you can see the opportunities we create for our people and in our efforts to enhance the communities in which we live and work. Arcadis is a world-leading company delivering sustainable design, engineering and consultancy solutions. We have about over 33,000 people at the moment in over 70 countries. And in order to strengthen our global reach, we invest our capabilities in focus in 3 key areas. So we have resilience, in which we look at how we protect our environment and water resources, powering our world for future generations. We have places, where how we create and manage sustainable places where people live, work and thrive. And we have mobility, how we design thriving and connected cities and communities that enable opportunity for all to keep the world moving. Arcadis has been established in 1888, and some of the companies acquired recently can trace their history even further back than that, in 1739. But it was in 1997 where the Arcadis brand was introduced, and building on our rich DNA in sustainability, in particular dating back in 1888, we are committed to ensuring our sustainable outcomes remain at the heart of everything we do. In 2015, we launched our Arcadis global brand, and in 2020, we introduced our technology branch, Arcadis Gen. And these are key elements that contribute to with how we branch into investing into the predictive tools to optimize the way we do. We look at our design and consultancy services, and it was a massive contribution that set us in the right way for the future. What does improving quality for life means for us is we focus on maximizing our impact, and our new strategy was defined, and this centers around maximizing our impacts by providing focus, global scale, and strengthening sustainable and digital offering, and all contribute to how we improve productivity. So through sustainability, we have people-centric solutions that address our clients' greatest challenges to deliver sustainable outcome through focus and scale. That's where we introduce the metrics and really look at the insight on how productive our projects are, our people are, and we leverage the global scale of our expertise and knowledge to better serve our growing client database. And the digital leadership is what brings all together. We leverage and expand our current digital platforms and capabilities, and we work with clients to bring them best-in-class digital solutions and a streamlined approach with more automation and scaled solutions. I mentioned that we looked at these elements for digital transformation and how we support our workers and how we can improve productivity, but we found that actually the shortage of resources is also an immense factor into the productivity for our projects and teams. So on that element, we work in 3 areas. So we work with the industry to address the global shortage. So we utilize our teams across the globe to deliver projects. And we can only do that if we have the robust processes, the technology in place, standard processes and procedures to enable everyone to understand and deliver projects in exactly the same way. We have highly skilled and automated resource management system because they need to respond to demand very, very rapidly. And we work with the education sector to understand the workforce of the future. So, for example, it's no surprise that the civil engineering degree I did 30 years ago is completely different to what our new graduates are coming equipped with. They have the computing science skills, and also new skills within our delivery teams. And we have to be very agile and adaptive. So, for example, when the pandemic started, some areas have been a lot more affected, for example, the aviation sector. And we had a massive team that was really highly skilled, equipped with the right skills, and we had to move them very quickly, demobilize them and remobilize them. So if we didn't use the right tools and the right technology to enable us to do that, and they've been moved overnight, so they are delivering. And now we do it the other way around as the industry picks up. And the final element we focus on, and is the most important one, is actually giving tools to our staff. And we have staff that are interested in using tools to increase productivity, but there are staff that are very, very interested in developing the tools that increase productivity. And we measure everything we do. As Katie said throughout her presentation, it's important to know why you're using these new technologies, measure and benchmark how improve productivity, how they contribute to everything. And with that in mind, that's where we provide the right training to upskill the teams, and just making sure they all have what they need to deliver the jobs. And we measure the improvement that they make, and we use lean construction techniques to measure those improvements, to streamline processes, and to really make sure everyone has the right information at the right time, so that there is no wastage within the processes we use. As we look through some of the projects we delivered in that way, I just wanted to share some more thoughts, because we focus a lot on using the right technology software to enable the digital transformation. We had to change the mindset and education of our business leaders and work closely with the resource planning, talent acquisition teams, with the construction industry to understand what is important. What are these productivity rates that we are talking about these days? Because everything moved on, and is moving at quite a pace. We work to develop our digital skills, and we work to upskill our current workforce, to bring in new capability and to deliver our projects, and obviously improve productivity and win new work in doing so. We collaborate really closely with schools and universities. We invest in apprentice schemes and think outside the box when it comes to finding new resources. And I'd like to leave you with a thought. It's very clear that technology is impacting our way of life, and the skills we need to be prepared for the future are very, very different. Our education system needs to be more adaptable and forward-looking to enable progress. And at the moment, we haven't got the same history like with the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors or the Association for Project Management or Institution of Civil Engineers have. So we'd like to accelerate that process, and we'd like to continue to work together with you and the entire construction industry to develop those skills and have the metrics in place to improve productivity. Thank you very much, and I look forward to all your questions.
Thank you, Elena. That's really interesting. I just wanted to pick up just, I know there's a load of detail behind what you've said, but just on the point of staff training, because I think this is something that the construction industry as a whole has struggled with, and clearly Arcadis has taken the view that it's something that, you know, the company has to invest in. Could you give us a sort of sense, I don't know if you've got figures or percentages to mind, but how much time or budget do you as a division or as the whole of Arcadis set aside for training and development for your staff?
We do set quite a lot, and depending on the area, because obviously we are a big company, but we go with a view that every single person within the company should use at least 20% of their time, that is 1 day a week, for training and upskilling and doing all of that. That amounts to millions. I'm not going to give you the exact figure, but we also use companies, specialized companies, to provide the skills. We developed e-learning training in-house. We have our ecosystem partners and really highly skilled technology companies that we work with to bring them within Arcadis and then provide a lot of training for our staff. So depending on the area, because it's a really complex area, as you mentioned.
Thank you very much. I think it's just really interesting to see, you know, like sort of, it would be great if the whole industry could set aside 20% of the time for training. I doubt that's possible, but at least there can be the aspiration, and that's probably around how the industry builds up. And,
is the return that training provides, we also keep an eye on, because everyone has a goal through our Grow, Perform, Succeed performance system that we use every year. So they get a digital goal, and if they go to a training, they just don't do the training for their own benefit. They need to actually come back and prove why. And sometimes we take the train the trainer approach. So it's a really complex matter, but it's very close to my heart.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you very much for explaining that. Okay, we are now going to move on to Fabio from HKS. Fabio, if you can put your screen up, hopefully we can share your screen.
Yes, hello everyone. So let me just try to share my screen here. Yes, can you see my screen?
Yes, that's perfect. Over to you.
Okay, perfect. Should just organize it here. Okay, great. So now let's have a look at how we can improve productivity from the architecture perspective. So here. 1 second. Yes. So now just talk about myself. So I'm Fabio Roberti in the HKS. I work as a regional practice technology leader for about 1 year and a half. And I help to implement the digital strategy and support the process from the ISO 19650. That is the main focus is on information management. And also I'm the author of the book Increasing Autodesk Revit Productivity for BIM Projects with the co-author Décio Ferreira. So now just a bit more about HKS. HKS is an American company, and we believe that the design should build trust between our collaborators, our clients, and people that are using the design we provide. And these are 3 of our products: the Kuwaiti Children Hospital, Sophie Stadium in the US, and the Amala Yacht Club. So, as I said, HKS is an American company, but we have many offices in multiple locations. I'm based in London, and you have about 1,300 employees. So now let's talk about how can we boost employee productivity. So, but before we go into the details, let's see what's on the news to frame the issue about skills shortage. It's quite interesting. So now I'm going to show you a few examples of what is in the news for this year, and then there is the link on the bottom of the page that you can, once you have the slide, you can access and read in full. But let's have a look at what's in the news. So from the RICS website, solving the skill shortage, and then we can see here its impacts on working practice and project delivery. And also the skill shortage is having a severe effects on infrastructure delivery, and the affordable housing program. So basically saying that is affecting the time frame to deliver projects. So let's see another one. From the website Business in the News. So are labor shortage the future of the construction industry? So then in this article, they mention about the aging population of the workers, injury, and also COVID as one of the reasons. Also, they mention about Brexit and the skilled laborers that came from abroad that is being reduced. So it's very interesting news. Now from the building website, where have all the workers gone? So then they mentioned this article, very interesting as well, is about wage inflation. So that we must bring more people from the bottom. And so, what they say here, yeah. So basically, is about this article mention wage inflation, that you can't keep increasing people wages. So that's another one. From City AM, construction in the city will be sabotaged by skill shortage without a long-term plan. So this is also a very interesting article. It's mentioning about climate change and also labor market. And the second part here shows about a large quantity of construction workers are expected to leave the sector or they become near retirement in the next 15 years. So this will become a problem. More people need to join the construction industry. Now from infrastructure, this is from Australian news. Also mention slow delivery times. So then we can see it's not only a UK problem, but it becomes a global problem. So this is the Australian news. Also from news from Autodesk blog, which is American research. So 93% of construction firms are reporting they have an open position they are trying to fill. You can see here 77% according to the survey, the candidates, there is a lack of required skills for specific roles. And in this article, there is the link here. You can see these 4 points. Firms are increasing their pay rate, taking steps to engage a younger generation, and better internal programs for training. And there is a need for more tech-savvy workers in the industry. So we can see that the problem, this news helps to frame the problem and what we need to resolve. So just to wrap up about the effects on the skills and employees shortage, there is the delay in delivery projects, wage inflation, difficult to replace the aging workforce, increase the recruitment cost, and also increase the project cost. And there are a few steps that we could improve the skill shortage. First is to invest in training programs, upskill the existing workforce to help close the skill gaps, prepare the young generation with the skills required to join the digitized sector, and also investment and promote a clear path for career in construction, architecture, engineering, and promote multiple sectors from the AC industry to incentivize more people to join the sector. So this is one of the key points as well. That is the way how promoting an exciting industry, that is the construction, engineering, architecture. So there are so many new things, and you must promote it to become exciting career path for young generation. Now let's talk about the HKS training scheme. HKS invests a lot in training, and if you are developing the training for your organization, these are the strategic objectives for a training scheme. So first, you need to assess the staff knowledge, identify the current training process, find the training problems if you are already providing, define the budget for the training, identify the in-house experts, because these people helps to spread the knowledge in the organization, establish a process to measure the progress on the productivity and training, identify the current resources you have, such as training rooms, training materials, Revit templates, and any software templates that helps to improve productivity. And you can develop these strategic points in actions, so then you can develop your own training. And the strange problem that appears in many countries is the ability to bring people to training. So this is not so easy task. I'm not sure exactly why, but across many countries and many companies, we have exactly the same problem. When the staff are too busy in projects, they live in the projects, they don't have time to join training. So this is a problem that you need to understand and ensure that the staff have time to attend training, because training is the way how to improve your productivity. It's not moving. Second. Yeah. Also, the training we provide, the training based on roles. So I believe most of the companies, they have the same process. So the training is based on the roles and functions on the employees. So then the employee receive suitable training. So basically, the overall, let's say, software training, we provide training for senior management and directors, which includes the overview about BIM, the introduction, and the typical contractual issues. There's training for project managers about the technology and the multiple tools, and the training for BIM coordinators and BIM managers, which then they are going to liaise with construction industry and with contractors to coordinate and find the issues on the project, and also the information authors for architects and the designers that receive in-depth software training. And one of the key points is the information management. Currently, the industry has a trend, at least in the UK, to increase the value of information management, which improves productivity and open the industry for better collaboration between multiple sectors, such as the clients, lawyers, FM teams, and manufacturers. So software is nice, is good to learn, is essential to learn, but the key point from now on is to focus on information management to increase productivity. And then, as if you are involved with the architecture sector, it's not only a few tools, so have so many tools that you need to provide training and support. So then you can see if it comes from design authoring to class detection, concept modeling. There are so many different options that you need to provide training, and this workflow becomes quite complex depending which sector you are working. And the skills that is quite useful, let's say, for the architects, and we train the architects to use the best as they can, is a BIM software, which the BIM software focuses on collaboration, construction, and information management. We use Revit, but there are other tools in the market, Tekla and the ArchiCAD. So then it's a BIM software which looks after these 3 points: collaboration, construction, information. But also we value the parametric modeling, which is with Rhino and Grasshopper, that it provides complexity, productivity, and simulation. So these 2 tools is very important for us, plus the free-form modeling. And connecting this is the way how we connect Revit with Rhino. Let's say is the main tools you are using in the office to bring all these 3 factors together and improve productivity in our company. So that the other essential point is about information management, because without high quality information, we can't increase productivity. And this high quality information comes from contract to FM deliverables. And you have 3 levels of information management training. First is the organization standards, that's your company standards. We have the national standards, and the top is the ISO 19650 standards. And the ISO is a guidance that helps on information management. And for learning platforms, In these days, we have so many learning platforms, LinkedIn Learning, there are very quality videos for learning software, Udemy, Autodesk University with free videos, very interesting classes, YouTube, and I'm sure you know there are many resources for learning. And you also use the Knowledge Smart to access the staff knowledge. And if you want to know a bit more about HKS, please visit our website. And recently, HKS was ranked as one of the most innovative companies. And if you scan the QR code, you'll be able to go directly to this article to find out more about HKS. And if you want to join our team, just visit our website and click in join our team. It'll be great to see you at HKS and find out more information about our company. But the key message, just to wrap up, is there are 3 key points to increase productivity in general. First is the hardware infrastructure. So then most of the companies in these days, they know which laptop, computer they need to have, the specifications. So then it's quite, most of the companies has this quite clear. Second is software training templates, which then, as you saw in the previous slides, not over difficult to find training for any software with YouTube or paid training. But one of the key points that the industry needs to focus is on information management. We can just improve productivity if you have quality information and focus on information management. This is overview about the technical side and the skill side, but also HKS is a fantastic company. We offer also supports for mental health and different training for well-being of our designers and architects. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much, Fabio. I'm going to invite the whole panel back, and if we could stop sharing Fabio's screen for now, and invite Katie back as well. So we have got some questions in, but I just thought I would just jump off from Fabio's point. Oh, Fabio, we've lost you on the camera. Oh, you're back. So Fabio's point, I thought, was well made. Well, lots of points there, but one that I wanted to pick up was something that Elena also mentioned at the end around the time that we take to think about productivity in our staff and to think about how to give them the tools and enable them. And I think that speaks to something you were talking about, Katie, about enablers. But Fabio's point around, we can often find that projects and just the day-to-day takes over. How do we as an industry think around carving out the time for this digital training and innovation and improvement? Katie, I don't know if you want to pick up on that on a sort of industry-wide level, if that's been brought up in the task force about, you know, just running to stand still isn't going to get us anywhere. How do we carve out the time to improve?
Yeah, I think this is about actually starting with productivity in mind. Hopefully you'll see some of this in the playbook as well. So this is actually when we're thinking about, when we're even starting about procuring a project in the first place, actually what forms of contracting might be suitable to enable productivity. So for example, I'll give you an example of this. We were doing some work with a pharmaceutical company, and their needs kept changing, because actually how they wanted to use the building kept changing because the science and technology in the building was moving rapidly, so design of the building. So actually we needed to have a very collaborative form of contracting where the design could be very rapid, very fluid, without a long drawn out design approval process, having to get it signed off early. Because if it's taken us 5 years to build this, if we stuck with the original premise, by the time we got to the end of 5 years, the building wouldn't be fit for purpose. Or so we could have built things and then had to dismantle them and put them back up again. So actually we needed a form of contract that enabled that rapid flow and evolution of design. So I think for me, it's really starting with productivity in the mind. Now, your project might be completely different. There might be a different form of contracting appropriate. You might have some specialist systems. So actually engage the supply chain really early, the people who are the specialists in that cladding, that steelwork, whatever it might be, so that actually we can get the best productivity to understand how to install these products. So I think for me, the secret is thinking about productivity from the start and early engagement for productivity.
Yeah, so that you're not tying yourself up in knots, redoing work, stretching the team to breaking point. And if you're running the job efficiently, then you should have some time for the team to be learning as they're working, so to speak.
Yeah, and for sure, digital is, key to digital rehearsals. Let's rehearse it in a digital cave before we try starting to build things on site and then having to redo it or find it doesn't work. I mean, huge amount of time can be saved with that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, I'm going to go to one of our questions. Actually, again, it goes back to the task force, but they're also saying if the other speakers want to come in on this as well. But a little bit more, they wanted to know around how the task force and other organisations address organisational challenges, particularly around educating leaders and innovators about intrinsic motivation and trust. So is there something around the role of leaders within organisations and how they can instill this productivity mindset? Elena, I don't know if you want to come in on that. I know you were mentioning your CEO. He is in the setting the vision.
Sure. It starts from the top. So for us, there was a lot of work, and that digital transformation and everything, improving that starts from the top with a change in mindset, and it's all around when we establish our new strategy, and we evolve the strategy every couple of years because the times change and we have to be very proactive in where we go with that. But it always starts at that place. So everyone, and there is a continuous work. So change management never stops. So that change piece, and as Katie said, you always take you start from the beginning, but that transformation piece continues all the time. And you also have checkpoints. So you go in and check the understanding and making sure everyone contributes to where we all want to go, and providing them the tools and everything, providing the governance, but also the guardrails to just put around them and guide them into the right direction. That's absolutely key for us. And yes, that I mentioned it in my presentation, that changing the mindset, that's a key piece to any successful strategy.
Yeah. Fabio, I don't know if you want to come in on that around as an organisation, how you motivate the whole organisation to be as productive as possible.
Okay. Yeah, we have frequent meetings with our directors, project managers, the staff in the project line.
Oh, we're just getting a bit of interference there on your mic. It sounds a little bit different to.
No, it's the same settings.
Perfect. That's fine.
Yes, as I was saying, we have a constant meeting about how the staff can improve productivity, and you also cause reference with the project managers, directors to see which project have the pipeline to find the best time to provide training, so you can see who becomes available in a specific time frame to provide training, and in this way we can improve productivity.
Okay, and Katie, on that point around motivation and trust.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the old adage of walking the talk is important. So actually, as the leaders, when you're out there having conversations about productivity, asking the questions, what are you doing about productivity? How have you set yourself up to look at productivity? That's important. Interestingly, what we have found is actually just presenting the data. We put data in the hands of our project directors, our site supervisors, and they gobble up. I'll give you a good example of this. I have a construction site, where people have been erecting steel as part of their career for a very long time. They're well seasoned in it. We gave them some crane telemetry data and looked at when the hook was actually lifting steel and when it wasn't lifting steel, and they started to notice a couple of flat periods. couldn't understand why. Did some analysis. They found out that was when steel was coming to site, but it wasn't pre-slung. So of course, crane wasn't working. You had to wait to slung it, sling it safely, so you could lift, etc., etc. Really obvious, but it's only when they had the data in front of them they could see an intervention they could make. Bring the steel to site, pre-slung. We get another 2 lifts per day in. So giving people the data and the information we found to be really valuable. And the final point I'd make, one thing the task force really does benefit from, we have a number of clients. And I can assure you that when your clients are asking about productivity and what you're doing about productivity, as a main contractor and as the supply chain, you absolutely make sure you're looking at productivity as well.
So yeah, so coming from the very top, coming from the client side, will focus the minds, definitely. Okay, so we've got time for a couple more questions. I wondered, I might sort of base them around some of your key takeaway points there, Kate, that thematically they kind of fit. This point that you made around considering the best return on digital interventions, so making sure that the money that you do spend on digital products really is going to have an impact. I don't know if anyone on the panel has got some suggestions for our audience around how do you assess that? There's so much out there. Just one moment, there's just a bit of interference still coming in. I'm just going to ask Fabio if you can switch your mic on and off again, because sometimes that doesn't fit. I've got these digital hacks here, so.
Mine's off.
Can we just switch it off for 1 second? Okay, that's done it for now. Okay, thank you. So I might just go to Elena first, and then bring you in, Fabio, just to see if the mic's improved in a minute. So Elena, just on that point about us being sort of bombarded with digital products, how do we improve on that?
We do, every time we want to adopt a new technology or a new digital way of doing things, we do a pilot. So we do a pilot, we really measure what that improves and how we do it. And we have a way, our own internal processes on how we class that, whether it was a successful trial or not. And then we can calculate really an informed decision on return on investment and take it forward. And we are trialing a few completely new things, like working with object type libraries, and that proved to be a massive investment. I'm not quite sure where that is on your task force, Katie, but just going from that beam, but overall working with all the processes and looking at that from the data set and going into that. And we found, and probably the first time I'm announcing that, is a 60% improvement in the way we deliver your project, which is absolutely a fantastic find. But we need to work with everyone to get to that point, and sharing data is still a bit of a stigma attached to that. So we can do a lot more, not individually as companies, but with Katie and the task force to really unlock a few of these productivity nuggets.
That's an interesting point about it not just being down to individual companies, but it's around the collaboration and the knowledge sharing. Katie, I don't know if you want to speak to that point around how the industry can support itself in some of this investment decisions.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think we do have a bit of a habit in this industry of, everybody wants to invent something for themselves. The minute you've got a problem, they can't try and come up with their own solution. So actually, we really push to say, actually, what are we doing elsewhere? Actually, have we already solved this problem on another one of our projects, or one of our, clients, or done something somewhere else? So absolutely starting from a point of, have we done it elsewhere? Then also, one of the other questions we ask is, can you get this information by just building on some technology you've already got? So as I spoke about the crane telematics just now, actually, a lot of that data was already being collected. We just weren't being tapped into it. So we didn't need to strap on another system. We actually just needed that to connect into our existing systems. Site record data that we were taking with the lobster cams on the top of helmets, we actually realized with an additional piece of software, we can use that to record progress. and data. We didn't need to bring a new piece of software. So I think that's a bit about some of the key questions we look at. Have we got something we can already use or build on? Are we doing it elsewhere, and somewhere else where we can transfer these ideas? That's critical.
Thank you so much, Katie. Sorry, I was going to bring Fabio in, but I've realised the time, and the time's flown, which shows that it was all very interesting stuff. So thank you so much to Katie, Elena and Fabio. We have another webinar in this series coming up at 2 p.m. today, and there are more tomorrow in the same Digital Building Week series. So do register, it's all free, why not? So for now, I'm going to just say thank you again to our brilliant panel. Thank you to our audience for posting your messages. And obviously, you can come back and see. Sorry, I did say that Katie might post again her final slide, but you can replay that on the on-demand version. So do go back to those links. I'm sure people want to find out much more about the task force. So thank you very much, everybody, and goodbye.
Bye-bye.